Okay, so I'm going to call the September 11th, 2025 meeting of the Circulation ILL Advisory Group to order at 9:32 a.m. I shared out some draft minutes from our previous meeting. I know the new members won't have context about what happened at the meeting. I will check in with our returning members to see if there are any adjustments to the agenda, or sorry, adjustments to the drafted minutes.
No, I went through the minutes. I didn't see any adjustments necessary.
Thank you, Matthew. I think you were the only
I think I
for who was at that meeting. So I'm going to accept the minutes as submitted. I'm going to do a roll call, and I figure since this is our first meeting, we'll also just kind of take a moment to introduce yourselves, say what library you're from and what your role is. We'll start with myself. My name is Mieko. I'm from CCS. I am the CCS project manager. I see my colleague Kiara here, so I will call on you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kiara. I am also at CCS and I am the member services specialist.
So I'm just gonna go in, see, Cheryl, I will call on you. And if your mic isn't working, that is okay. I'll say Cheryl is from the Cary Area Public Library. She is their head of circulation. Carrie?
I'm Carrie Carroll. I'm the account services manager with the Fox River Valley Libraries.
Janine is not here yet. Kim?
I'm Kim Heglin. I'm the circulation manager at the Northbrook Public Library.
Jennifer?
Hi, good morning. I'm Jennifer Sobel with the Palatine Library, Member Services Assistant Manager.
Samantha or Sam, let us know which you prefer.
Can you hear me okay? Hi, I don't have a preference. I'm Samantha Menard. I'm the Patron Services Assistant Manager, Matthew's old position at Park Ridge Library.
I feel like I alternate whenever I email or like ticket with Samantha, I'm like, Sam, Samantha, Sam, Samantha.
Oh yeah, so no, I don't care at all.
And then wrapping it up, Matthew.
I'm Matthew Hoffman. I am the circulation manager at Wilmette Public Library.
Oh, well, thank you for serving on
Kim's old job.
I love this string. Well, thank you for participating in the committee this year. Since this is our first meeting, I always like to start it off just by kind of doing a very brief overview of what the committee does and what your role is. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to get the slides going. Okay. And let me just adjust where the Zoom menu link is. Okay, great. So again, starting out with just an overview, excuse me, an overview of the Circulation Interlibrary Loan Advisory Group. So these are essentially the primary roles of the advisory group. Essentially what you're doing this year is you are consulting with Cooperative Computer Services on potential system configuration changes, workflow, oops, just make sure. Oh, Janine is here. Welcome, Janine. We just got started. What we did at Roll, we just kind of like did a hi, introduce ourselves, what library we're from, and what our role is. So if you are able, go ahead and introduce yourself.
So sorry, I'm late. I'm Janine Wisniewski. I am the head of circulation at Mount Prospect Library.
Hey. So we're just starting off just kind of by going over what the roles of the group is and like what we'll anticipate doing over the next year. So in addition with consulting on system config changes, you will also help me out if needed with research and testing, such as like testing new potential settings or testing new tools. And the group will make recommendations for things like policy changes, workflow best practices to the technical groups. So to either the circulation or the interlibrary loan technical group. And then in terms of specific roles as members, in the advisory group, you are representing the CCS community in these meetings. So it's a little different from the technical groups where you are really speaking from the perspective and of your library. Here you're speaking for CCS libraries as a whole. So we do plan for 4 advisory group meetings per year. And then in addition to the advisory group meetings, you will also be expected to attend the associated technical group meetings, right? So if your role is primarily in circulation, you'll plan to attend the Circ Tech group meetings. If your role is primarily interlibrary loan staff, you should plan to attend the interlibrary loan tech group meetings. Also, we may participate in email discussions in between meetings. So we actually did that last month when we were just talking about some like language changes to the circulation manual. So I may be sending out emails just asking for feedback on certain questions that may not require, an in-person meeting, or we may not want to wait for one of our quarterly meetings. And then finally, as any kind of discussions or recommendations are taken to technical group meetings, and if participating in the discussions, you can, of course, give input from the perspective of an advisory group member. So as I mentioned before, one of the main roles of this group is to give recommendations on things like shared workflows or policy changes, but really like, okay, what happens with those recommendations? So we have a decision matrix that guides where recommendations go, depending on what the impact of those changes will be. So just kind of quickly running through this, if there's no change to workflow, if there's no financial or HR impact, CCS can take a recommendation and implement it. So of course, the most recent example was the language changes to the Circ manual. The damage procedures. Another example of this was a recommendation to increase the patron notice history display from 3 months to 6 months. And this is like back in like 2019. Since these don't impact staff workflow, we were able to take the recommendation, and when I say we, I mean CCS was able to take the recommendation from the advisory group and implement it without needing to take it to another group for approval. If the recommendation is going to impact workflow, but there's no financial or no HR impact, the recommendation will go to the appropriate technical group for approval. So examples of this is if we are fully revising a workflow or making a workflow recommendation, like when we created the damaged item procedures. Or when we're thinking about things like ILS setting changes that are going to impact a workflow. So another recent example was when we took the recommendation to prevent auto renewals for those interlibrary loan patron accounts, the ILL group. And then the third tier of this, this is a rare situation, but if the recommendation is going to create a financial or a human resources impact, if it requires the addition of a service system-wide, or if it's a formal policy change. And when we talk about policy change here, we're specifically referencing the governing board policy manual. The advisor group would make a recommendation. The technical group would then accept that recommendation to bring to governing board, and governing board would make the final approval. So I don't think our group has had an example of this. Some hypothetical examples would be if like we required all libraries to have a like a full-time phone attendant on staff, so big stuff like that. So that is kind of our the way we kind of guide decisions and who we are making recommendations to. So like I said, we'll plan to meet 4 times this year. All will be held over Zoom. So these are the meeting dates for the rest of the year in addition to today. So again, we have a short meeting today, so I kept our meeting at 10:30. For the others, we're not quite sure, what the agenda is going to look like yet. So I just recommend blocking 2 hours just in case. And then as we get closer to the meeting date and we know what's going to be on the agenda, we can, adjust that time if we need. And then if we don't have any pending agenda topics, I will cancel the meeting. And so I will send out notification to the group. So that is the CERC ILL advisory group in a nutshell. I'm going to pause for a second and see if there's any questions or comments from the group. Okay. Hearing none, are you ready to get started with our first action item of the year? Okay, so we are going to talk about the patron record, the wireless carrier field. I want to start by just kind of recapping the information that was in the board packet, just to kind of give some background and some context to what this field is and what decision we're going to be talking about today. So if you work with patron records, if you're familiar with the patron record, the work form, you are likely familiar with the wireless carrier field that is under the notices preference section. So this field is intended to reflect the patron's mobile phone carrier, and it is used for issuing Polaris SMS text notices. So the Polaris text system, it uses an email to SMS gateway to send messages. So with the systems, notice starts out as emails and then are translated into text messages. And the carrier information is required because each carrier uses its own gateway domain to make that translation. And so this information about the gateways, it's all configured into a table on the Polaris database. And that is what populates that wireless carrier dropdown. So when we started out with Polaris, we were sending text messages through Polaris. So we needed to have that carrier information in order for the patron to get their notice. In 2023, CCS libraries switched to using MessageBee's text service. So here notices are exported to MessageBee and then are issued to patrons from MessageBee's servers. And MessageBee does not need that carrier gateway information to issue the text notices. However, the patron registration work form requires staff to input wireless carrier information because of how the Polaris system is set up. And currently there is no way for us to remove that requirement. So even though we don't need that carrier information anymore from MessageBee, Polaris is still asking us to input that for every patron that wants text notices. So what are we proposing to do? To improve staff workflow, we are recommending reducing the carrier list to just kind of like a single generic entry. So this way staff are able to configure a patron to receive text notifications without needing to ask for a carrier. When registering or modifying a patron, staff would change the field from none to that single generic option to set up the patron for text notices. And then if your library does the Polaris, the Power Pack online registration, and patrons would be able to set themselves up to receive text notices, and they would do the same thing. When selecting a carrier, they would change from none to that generic entry. There is, right now, there is not a way to remove none as the default. So we don't have a way to kind of just like auto set patrons to a generic entry. So the cleanest we could get it would be none and then our generic entry. In the past, when we first switched to MessageBee, we encouraged libraries to continue to collect that wireless carrier information, because in the case that we would go back to a system that required the gateway, but just looking at how text notice services are kind of developing, I think the gateway system is a thing of the past. So we just don't have those concerns anymore with kind of keeping patrons up to date with the carrier. I think it would be, chances of us going back to a gateway system are like next to none, essentially. And then the last thing I just want to mention would be about like the implementation. So if implemented, CCS would bulk change all patrons with existing carrier information to that general entry. And then we would be able to remove all the other carrier options from that list. So that would be our cleanup strategy. So that was the background information I wanted to give about carrier information. I'm going to pause the slides and open it up for comments and questions.
Well, Miyako, I like the idea of just reducing the choices to just one entry, and I do a lot of outreach, and sometimes I rely on non-circulation staff to fill out the library card applications. And I figure it's just one less thing to worry about, not worrying about the carrier and always getting that filled out. So I would definitely be, in favor of it.
I'm going to read out a comment from Cheryl. I think it would make it easier for staff and patrons. Some patrons are frustrated when they don't know their carrier. Sometimes they change carriers without telling us. Could the generic term just be text?
Thank you. Thank you, Miyako, for explaining, because my thought was, what happens if we went to someplace else and we needed to go back to getting everyone's carrier? So thank you for explaining that. Given that, I am for just whatever the group decides, because it makes sense not to collect more data than we don't need.
I'm in the middle of changing our paper applications for our library cards, and this is literally the final piece of the puzzle for us, because we still had sections on that form to designate. So I'm also in favor of this. That does lead to a question that Miyako, you and Kiara both, I think, answered for me, but when interpreting those MessageBee errors that we run, it's really now kind of a black and white of it's a landline versus it's not, right? Almost.
Yeah, depending on the error message you see when you're running those MessageBee reports, it could be a landline, it could be a prepaid phone that's run out of, minutes or texts or whatever. I'm going to share, I'm actually I'm thinking about this. SHB, I've linked this page to in the how-to page for text. But I'm gonna post it in here as well. I think it's really interesting. It is a page on MessageBee's support site that lists all of the different errors and like what they mean and like what are the different conditions. So it's not super relevant to like our decision now, but it's helpful. Just it's interesting to look through if you want to see like what could be going on with my patrons.
Miko, we're asking for agenda items for the next CERC meeting. If this is something we're bringing to the group, can we do a refresh on MessageBee then? So that way we can kind of, if this is something we're asking the group to do, remind them of what MessageBee can do for them. And that might be also very helpful.
Especially
Let's do
because it's
that.
in the beta form right now, if the folks who are regularly using it. I was
Yeah,
used to, yeah, it was a
that's the move.
change. Like so many things. I'm like, oh, I like the old version.
Yeah, we can definitely add that to the agenda for the October meeting.
I'll just jump in to say I'm super in favor of this. It's still relatively new for us, and we did not love this requirement when we joined CCS. And we recently, like just super recently, within the last couple of weeks, had it cause a weird error that we had never seen before that prevented a patron from like updating their account. And it all had to do with the text thing. So I'm very pro, yes, make it a generic entry and have one less thing for everyone to think about.
I'm also definitely in favor of it. I don't see any reason not to be. It seems like a nice, easy fix.
Okay, piggybacking on everyone else, totally agree. And I also love the fact, I think sometimes when you ask for that information, people are so sensitive now about why do you want this? And you're opening this door of like, you're taking information from them that you shouldn't have. So I think it makes a cleaner experience on the customer service end.
So then that leads to my next question then, before we kind of do a formal motion to recommend. If implemented, what should the generic label be? So I know Cheryl gave the recommendation for just using text.
There's no way to suppress that secondary line since it seems like in the registration form, you probably have looked at it. But I just wondered under the notifications, it seems like there's a break in the line for text messaging phone and wireless carrier. Do you need that phone 1 and phone 2?
That we do.
Okay. Okay, then I like text.
Yeah, I like text as well.
So, with that, let's like we are in a good point where we can make a formal recommendation. So in the agenda, I had a couple potential actions listed out, and one is to recommend the wireless carrier list reduced to one general entry. So would someone like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion to recommend the wireless carrier list be reduced to one entry.
Do I have this? Janine seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, excellent. So we will take this recommendation then to the October the October Circulation Technical Group for final approval. And we will work from there. Okay, I'm going to reshare my screen then. We can get to. Oops. Where is my? There we go. Our second agenda topic, adding library name to notices. So first of all, a big thank you to Carrie for bringing, just kind of like tickling our brains about this. So to give some background, libraries use shared notice messaging for most notice types, including billing and expiration, your card expiration text notices. So the text notices are brief, right? They have to be more brief than email because we are working with character limits. So notices reference the library, but they don't specify which library. And it's just the billing and the expiration notices that kind of use that generic the library term. So what we see here is patrons who use different libraries, they may have difficulty identifying which library sent the notice if they need to reach out, particularly with the billing notice. So what's being proposed is that the text message strings be edited at the library level to replace the term the library with the organization's name. So, instead of saying, please please check your account online or contact the library, it would say, please check your account online or contact the Fox River Valley Public Library. In terms of the expiration notice instead of saying, please visit the library with proof of residency, it would say, please visit the Fox River Valley Public Library with proof of residency. So, if implemented, this is not something we would need to take to the technical group, since there is no workflow change component to it. It is something that we would be able to implement right away. CCS would work with MessageBee to get those text notice strings updated for every library. So that is essentially the background information I have for that one. It is a pretty straightforward change that we are proposing. So again, I will pause and open it up to the group for comments or questions.
I like it. It helps with reciprocal borrowers too, that the same system is used. That's happened where someone didn't realize what library their card was expired from. So, and it also adds that personal touch that says our name rather than just generic.
Kim, that's exactly what started this. It was one of our branch staff members who was helping a patron who was a reciprocal borrower, and we are in the bottom corner of the CCS pocket where we have non-CCS to the west, non-CCS to the south, and non-CCS to the east. And so just to make it more customer service friendly, that was why I'd asked CCS.
I agree. I mean, it would be very customer service friendly. As Kim well knows, we get a lot of Evanston patrons here at Wilmette. And when you have patrons using, multiple branches like that, I think having that clarification would certainly help the patron.
As a patron in CCS that regularly uses the library I work at, as well as Fox River Valley and Algonquin, with a small child that is always checking a million things out, as a patron, this would be really great because not all patrons are super savvy at like going in and figuring out either like which thing they checked out from where. So I think, yeah, it is a very user patron friendly change.
Cheryl posted a comment. She recommends no drawbacks that she can see. Sounds like everyone is in agreement with this one. If we are ready, we can move to the motion. So the potential action posted on the agenda just recommends billing and card expiration text notices be updated to include the library name.
Ooh, I want to do this one. I recommend billing and card expiration text notices be updated to include the library name.
I'll second that.
Kim seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Excellent. So that one passes. So again, since there's no like workflow change to that, CCS will work directly with MessageBee. So Kiara and I will start coordinating that, and we will send out communication to the libraries ahead of the change just to let them know. So, like I said, it was a short agenda today. So that were our two items for today. We will anticipate meeting next on December 11th at 9:30 a.m. over Zoom. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Janine? May I have a second?
I will second that.
Matthew? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are, poor Cheryl. Hopefully we'll see your face in December then. So we are adjourned at 10:03 a.m. I'm going to stop the recording.